Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to explain basically the problem with identity politics and the bad psychological effects that it can have on people. I think ultimately all of these psychological effects that I'm going to discuss in this video stem from one major problem with identity politics. It's the problem that it puts people in these collectivistic tribes based on their race, their class, any sort of specific thing, or any sort of or not necessarily unchangeable, any sort of fact about themselves that other people share. It defines them by their group, and it makes them very tribalistic in that sense. So ultimately, what it does primarily is it sacrifices your own self, your own view of self, and that for the collective group, for the collective group's goals, for the collective group's self-esteem. That's what it means to have pride in your race or pride in that sort of stuff. It's this, or that's the general feel I get from the idea that people want to take pride in their race or sexual identity or that sort of thing. It's the idea that your self-esteem, pride, comes from this group rather than from yourself, which is a very damaging way of having self-esteem. I think ultimately a lot of problems in the world come from placing your self-esteem external to yourself. And that is one thing that tribalism, especially the tribalism that comes from identity politics, does quite a bit of. It plays to people who don't necessarily have their own super strong confidence in self and their own self-esteem, and it puts them in this group that makes them feel like they're part of something, and it makes them feel more pride in themselves as their pride comes from this group rather than from themselves. But this is ultimately empty, as it is an external source for pride, in the same sense that how religion replaces pride, which I've talked about it in another video. So, yeah. And the second thing that identity politics does is it tells people how to think and behave, which is very damaging because your mind is your means of survival. You have only your individual mind to tell you how to live. You can't leech off of other people and still continue to live, because that's ultimately not how the mind works. The mind is individual. Your happiness and life are an individual thing. So what identity politics and the tribalism that comes from it does is it says, no, you're part of this group, so you have to almost behave a certain way. This is why when you see those things where it's like a successful black person gets told that they're behaving white or they're acting white or appealing to white culture. I think that's a very, very negative way of viewing things, because this is someone who has obtained success in their life, but they're actually being pulled backwards by this tribalistic mentality. It creates some guilt in them for success, and it ultimately is extremely damaging to them, and it separates people into these little compartments and groups and leads to tensions between different groups of people, which is not a very good way to have a society be organized, to say the least. But yeah, so ultimately it instills this collectivist view of their goals and of what they should achieve in life, and is ultimately very damaging to their psychology in that sense. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.